it falls to me to attempt a closure. Well, I'm not going to summarize, and certainly not going to pretend that there was anything close to consensus here over the last 2.5 days. And in the interest of time, I'm going to go and thank many of the people and organizations that made Global Energy Systems 2013 possible, and then finish with a very brief afterthought. And should you feel that applause is warranted for anything you experienced over the last 2.5 days, please collapse your applause to the end. So, starting with thanks. So, we benefited from financial assistance from 4 universities, the University of Aberdeen, the University of Edinburgh, the Schools of Geoscience and Economics, to be specific. Both provided invaluable financial support, as did the Bristol Cabot Institute and Uppsala University. We also benefited greatly from a partnership with our exclusive media sponsor, New Era. However, many other organizations contributed and made this event possible. I'm not going to take you through them, but I will briefly highlight perhaps energy policy and also the petroleum economist as having been vital, particularly in marketing. I think this venue, and I hope you'll agree, is very appropriate to what we're trying to achieve here, and I'm very grateful for everything that the staff has done. Most of the conference organization was carried out by my company, Scene. I cannot really go through everyone. As you can see, it's a large list. But I would perhaps particularly want to underline Glowcast, our video partner, and Aaron Moffat, John Duncan, and Martin Craig in particular. Vijay Bhopal, Darcy Pimlet, Matthew Parsons, and Stanislav Manilov helped tremendously with coordination and marketing, as you can see. Carrie McKinnon on design, and Vaz Aziz on photography. There was an advisory committee, and we thank you for, well, advising, as well as refereeing the poster submissions. Lastly, the organizing committee, which constituted Raymond Koppelaar, Roger Bentley, Ewan Mearns, Chris Vernon, Simon Radcliffe, and myself. It's been a pleasure working with you. Your feedback, very useful. This is our first attempt at Global Energy Systems. Please tell us how you think we can make it better. So, a brief afterthought. Energy security is not a new problem. And I'm going to do what you perhaps think is the impossible and step even further back than we've done over the last 2.5 days. These are the world's oldest oil droplets, as far as I know, ever discovered. They are 3,520 million years old. They were discovered in northwest Australia, by myself, in fact. Now, this oil is not much older than the very oldest sedimentary rocks we have. And quite a lot has happened over the last 3.5 billion years. One thing that hasn't changed, however, is that the vast majority of single-celled organisms, like those that gave rise to the oil you see on the screen behind me, spend most of their existence in a state of more or less chronic starvation. For them, energy security is a fact of life. For us, I'm going to ask for the PowerPoint, laser point of view. For us, cultured multicellular organisms, there's another thing that hasn't changed and never will. This is that the characteristics of the flow of energy constrain, alongside other things, of course, the states of organization that ensembles of living subsystems, like us in this room, can attain. In other words, characteristics of the flows of energy through these systems constrain, not determine, but constrain the states of organization that can be achieved. This has not changed over the last 3.5 billion years, and never will. And in fact, it is as true here as it is on Alpha Centauri, our nearest planet harboring solar system. 3 such key characteristics of the flow of energy are the quantity, quality, and stability of energy flows. Everyone, I think, that spoke and contributed to this conference will agree to that. But for us, cultured multicellular organisms, organization can mean many things, and a lot more than infrastructure, or grid systems, or indeed generating systems. and changes in the characteristics of energy flow, as indeed 3.5 billion years of evolution, or 3.8 if my PhD thesis is to be believed, may open unexpected doors. Consider the ownership structure of onshore generation. As you can see from these pie charts, which are based on 2012 data, the ownership of renewables generation in Scotland, where applicable market-based support mechanisms have only been very recently introduced, stands apart in stark contrast to Danish and German counterparts, where it is much more in the hands of local stakeholders. The pie charts themselves are scaled towards total capacity. This is just onshore generating capacity. Less than 4% of onshore generation is locally owned in Scotland, compared to roughly 86% and 56% and 50% in Denmark and Germany, respectively. There are signs that this is changing, however. Now, this is focusing on an absolute niche, and I'm now zooming into the microscopic, more microscopic, arguably, than any of the speakers, bar perhaps David Furman yesterday, has been willing to tread. And this despite significant barriers. This growth is roughly exponential. This is an exponential fit to the data. And indeed, community-owned energy generation is growing much faster on a rate basis than the renewable sector itself in the UK. Now, the fledgling state of the sector allows us to tease apart externalities associated with positive ownership. My point, incidentally, is I'm not giving an impassioned defense of the renewables industry. I'm merely trying to highlight just how little I think we really understand of the big picture and how unpredictable some of the externalities that face us over the next years will be. And some of these externalities will be positive. And I'm only wanting to illustrate two positive externalities, and I think that policymakers and industry alike have completely underestimated how potent these are. They act as multipliers and give rise to positive feedback. So, if you put energy generation into local hands, through owning equity, for instance, the way that people view energy changes completely. It unalienates them from energy generation, if you will. And we see massive effects on energy efficiency and demand-side gains, both of them beneficial. Not only that, but the whole approach, the whole view on renewables changes. And we have a lot of data on this. This is not meant to be a talk, just an afterthought. Visit our website, if you will. And no one had expected just how positive this feedback would be, because people regard developments much more favorably, risk goes down, developers themselves pump more money into the renewables economy, and so on. Cultural feedback, if you will. The same thing with the economy itself. Where do you think people that are generating renewable energy are investing their renewables? 62% of all the projects in the UK that we surveyed, and we surveyed all of them, invested back into generation technology. So what we're seeing here is sectoral synergy. This is not an impassioned case in support of renewables. My main point is merely this. As the new energy century unfurls around us, it is not just our energy infrastructure that will change. Institutions in the broadest possible sense will come to be unanchored to varying degrees from a bygone century of centralized energy control and provision. These changes will carry benefits and disbenefits, and some may surprise us. If anyone here disagrees, if anyone here believes that in the face of the ongoing rapid changes to global energy systems, they have a firm grasp on the cultural adaptations and responses, like these two that I highlighted, and that no one knew about until we published this. If anyone here believes that they have a firm grasp on these, and on the timescales that are required, decennia that is, well, perhaps they can tell us how they do that next year. Please join me in thanking all the speakers, poster contributors, panelists, chairs, facilitators, advisors, and organizers, and staff that made Global Energy Systems 2013 possible. Thank you.